joining us now. He's an investigative reporter over at the Arizona Republic. Fantastic job on the Gilbert Goons. Robert Anglen is joining us. Robert, nice to see you. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Robert, I want to start by thanking you. And I know you've had some help as well following this story, but I think it is a great example of local journalism and the need for local journalism to hold the powerful accountable.
Yeah.
That's the job. And, of course, I've been working with all of these stories. I've worked with my colleague, Elena Santa Cruz, to bring them home.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into Soderbergh, who lied. I think that we have to do that. He's one of the worst I've ever seen in Arizona. I've been here almost 30 years. Lack of leadership, lack of caring. The only reason that they started to arrest people is because guys like you set a fire under his rear end. So, okay, what did the Gilbert police know? When did they know that this was an issue and ignore it?
Well, in December, when we launched our initial investigation into the Preston Lord murder and tied it to the group known as the Gilbert Goons, the explanation from Gilbert Police was we didn't know about the Gilbert Goons because there wasn't any way to tie the beatings to a specific group or to a specific location. The report that we obtained yesterday contradicts that in what appears to be a major way. The report examines one beating, perhaps even, and spills over into a second beating that occurred in December of 2022.
Connor
Jarnigan was one victim.
10 months before the Preston Lord incident.
10 months before. And in their investigation, the police discovered, charitably, they discovered in January of 2023 that these kids were on Snapchat having conversations on social media, which, by the way, is the same place where they were posting videos of their actual beatings, that about, beatings, brass knuckle attacks, and not just one or two. They were taking credit for lots of them in this Snapchat. So the idea that police didn't know that these beatings were tied to one another, that they were occurring, or that they involved didn't know they involved the same individuals, is hard to take at this point.
Well, it defies logic. I mean, I guess is the nicest way I can put it, that they had a subpoena, if I understand correctly, Gilbert Police, to access these Snapchat messages. They were able to see all of this, sometimes in real time, but they didn't equate it to what was actually happening in their community with the Jarnigan attack, with other attacks, some 30 of them, at least according to the Goons. They claim they did about 30 of them. How do they not see 1 + 1 is 2?
The kids in the Snapchat, you mentioned 30. Yeah, they said as soon as they figure out it's us, they're going to know we did 30 plus assaults.
Right.
In another chat, in the same one, they mentioned at least 5 brass knuckle attacks. Now, maybe the police didn't know about all those cases at the time, right? January 23. Maybe this is just emerging. But what we know now is there were beatings ahead of that, and there were beatings after it. And when they looked at these 2 specific cases, they were looking, again, this report dealt with 2 specific cases, a victim named Nitzen and a victim named Jarnigan, both teenagers. One was attacked at a house party. Connor Jarnigan was attacked at the In-N-Out, which was a favorite attack spot of these guys. And at the time, we knew that they had been attacked in a group setting. A mob of kids. They talked about 15 kids. A group of kids attacked them. But each of the cases was handled as if only one person attacked, and that's who was arrested and charged. And the idea of a gang attack kind of just went into the ether.
All right, we're talking about the Gilbert Goons, and joining us in studio is Robert Anglen, Arizona Republic investigative reporter. I think the thing that's hard for me to swallow is at one point here, you had Michael Solberg, the chief, say, we didn't believe it. We didn't believe that people were getting hurt. We don't believe it. We think they're lying on the Snapchats, but we're just going to step up our patrols. Well, it can't be. You either believe it or you don't.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
So which is it?
If you don't believe it, Why are you stepping up your patrols? And it just seems to me like he continues to lie. He's in this massive hole. He can't get out of it. He could if he just came clean and said, "I suck at my job. I didn't look. I ignored it. I did a poor job. I probably should get fired." I mean, then maybe people would look at him and say, "Okay, good. This is a good starting point." But how do you not believe it, but still send cops out to patrol? It doesn't work for me.
There's actually, in college, I studied logical fallacies, and there's actually more than a couple in this statement that he provided to us. Not only does he say you can't believe that each attack, each of the claims in the Snapchat were investigated thoroughly. He says you can't trust them. We investigated, we proved, we discovered they weren't true. Then he says, so you can't believe what they're saying on Snapchat. Yeah. Then he says, but if you read the Snapchat, you'll see they were afraid of us and they knew we were stepping up patrols, and they say it right there. So he uses the Snapchat that he says you can't trust to support his argument that the kids were afraid of patrols. The Snapchat doesn't go all the way, but the kids were clearly mocking the police in this.
Oh, yeah.
At one point, they even said, when are they going to make us an official gang?
Right. They literally in the Snapchat they talk about that. They even talked about coming up with names for their gang. I mean, they may not have internally called themselves Gilbert Goons at that time, at least early on.
Then Solberg later claimed that the goons were lying.
Yeah, that they were just that it wasn't real. It was braggadocio. Yeah. I'm like,
why does he still have a job? In all honesty, listen. He deserves scrutiny. There's no question about it. We're seeing that he's been lying. All these reports contradict the statements that he continues to make. He blames the victims. He blames the parents. He blames the media. And he doesn't look at his own face in the mirror. Why hasn't he been fired? And who could fire him? And why hasn't that person fired this guy?
There have been calls in the community for his job.
There should be.
And there certainly have been protests at city council meetings. There have been protests also calling for the mayor's job. The mayor has decided she won't run for re-election in Gilbert. Who can fire him or what pressure needs to be brought, that's beyond me. We just keep asking the questions about these beatings and how come they weren't investigated for months leading up to the murder of Preston Lord. And we have the parents of these victims, not me, the parents of victims are saying if they'd have taken my case seriously, Preston Lord may not have been killed.
And that is, I think that's really one of the things that really stood out. In studio with us right now, you can also watch the video. You go to KTAR.com. We have a live stream video going on as well. He is Robert Anglen, Arizona Republic's investigative reporter and somebody who deserves a lot of credit in making sure that not just Preston Lord's death didn't get swept under the rug, but that this Gilbert Goons organization, gang, group, is being highlighted and being brought to justice.
I think, again, I'm going to put a spotlight on Michael Solberg, and I'm going to be unapologetic about that.
Gilbert Police Chief.
Yes, because he is the one that is in charge. Okay, so, Robert, in 2022, we had a couple brass knuckles cases. One was Connor Jarnigan, who I've met. I've talked to him. I've talked to his mother. There was a second case. I can't remember the last name. I don't know if they're using it, so we're just going to use. These are two cases. Two kids get nailed by the brass knuckles in 2022. From what I understand, when the cops went to investigate this, they let the kids do all the work. Is that right?
That is what the Jarnigans say happened. They are the ones, and the reports show it. Clearly, the police were investigating, but in identifying the case and pushing police to do the investigation, the Jarnigans say they did the work. That both Connor Jarnigan, the son, and the father put the case together.
Like how? What type of?
I was going to say, am I to understand that they also brought evidence? They brought some of the social media stuff. They actually brought it to the police. Said. Here's the guys that did it.
Here you go.
That's what they say they did. They got the videos from other students, and that's really important to Jarnigan's mother, who says, look, there are good kids out there. They were helping us, but we had to take that to the police and say, here, we've identified the assailants. Here they are. And then we had to tell them, oh, they were also in a Walmart. You can get video from Walmart. Oh, there should have been video in the parking lot.
Then why did the police make them do the job?
I can't answer that.
What's your gut say?
I can't answer it.
Is it a cover-up?
A cover-up of what, though?
I don't know. Cops.
Well, I'm trying to understand the motivation.
Knowing the parents and saying, you know what, we're not going after that kid.
We talked when we had you in before. I remember we talked about the kids in the goons, or some of
Right.
them, possibly politically connected, possibly coming from some money, wealthier families. I mean, I'm just trying to understand what would be the reason that an entire city, a police department, a mayor, or whatever, would look the other direction when kids in their neighborhood are being victimized.
There's probably an argument to be made, and I really can't speculate as to why. Certainly some of the kids' parents are moneyed. In fact, I describe them in this article as mostly affluent teenagers. But we have uncovered no evidence in the 8 months we've been working on it that played a factor. And I think that needs to be pointed out.
Fair.
But, Gilbert has a reputation as America's second safest city. They market it. It's important to the city. These are cases, if you think about it from a police standpoint, that could easily be dismissed, perhaps. My son got beat up. Well, if you minimize the beating up, if you don't look into the details of the cases,
Kids get into fights all the time.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kids don't get jumped by 10 others with brass knuckles.
And that brings us back to your point on these two cases in December that we keep coming back to. Yeah. Even though there's in the reports, there's talk of gangs, there are affiliates, there's talk of groups of kids attacking one person. The case itself was treated as if it was a one-on-one attack. Police initially arrested 2 people for the beatings of Jarnigan and the other boy, and one was charged, and that was Tyler Freeman, who, by the way, has been connected to at least 3 other beating cases, and is facing charges in one of those, not the other. So one person was held accountable in those 2 beatings. Then you get these social media posts, and you realize, well, there were beatings going on, both before, again, and after. And police had the documentation in front of it. And that gets us back to those logical fallacies where Chief Solberg says, well, you couldn't believe them, but we were stepping up patrols. And why were you stepping up patrols? Well, it was because beatings were happening, particularly at that In-N-Out, where I think we've tracked 7 separate beatings now.
It was a popular place for them to hang out and approach people and jump them.
And in the Snapchats, one of the kids actually says, "Man, we gotta stop hanging at In-N-Out. They're coming for us."
The goons were hanging out at a place, and they were telling everybody about it online.
Everybody knew they were hanging out there.
Reading that this is where the attacks are taking place. And they're probably just lying.
Williamsfield Road in Santan Parkway. It's right there. It's right that In-N-Out.
We're not going to believe it.
Right. But then you got to ask yourself, well, if they didn't believe it, if it wasn't true, if they investigated all, why'd they step up patrols?
Because they lied.
And then, of course, hey, there really were beatings going on, not just by word of mouth, but you can watch them.
Here's the video. Here's the Snapchat videos. Here's the Instagram messages. Yeah.
Where's the investigation into Solberg? Why isn't? I mean, you're investigating him, but where's the investigation of? Hey, this guy lied a lot.
I mean, is this something like, I don't know how it works. The Arizona Attorney General has to look into this? Like, I don't know where it goes.
Somebody should be looking into this other than media.
Well, here we are.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? That no one's investigating this. This chief who just continues to dig a hole for himself. I don't know who the investigation's supposed to be headed by, but somebody needs to investigate this guy. Goes without saying.
Well, it doesn't pass the smell test.
No,
I think would be
not.
the absolute best thing you could say about it, with the conflicting statements coming out of the police chief and the police department, with the evidence that is, I don't even think it's in dispute at this point. I mean, we have people literally locked up, facing life in prison right now, with a lot of irrefutable evidence. And you have a police department that had its head in the sand for a lot of it, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Also, in this so-called Gooniverse, that as we refer to it, you have the the police chief not willing to discuss really the Gilbert Goons themselves, although he has now acknowledged the Goons are a real thing.
Gee, it took a while, but yes.
They have tried to cast this as a teen violence problem that they had been investigating for years before all of this unfolded. And you just have to take him at his word, I guess.
No, you don't.
That's hard for us to do.
I don't think anyone's taken him at his word after a lot of the stuff that came out just the other day. It's completely contradicted everything that he said.
Yeah. Robert, thank you again.
Keep up the good work,
you and
man.
your team, don't let go, right? You're like a dog with a bone. And, they should be a little bit concerned that this story is going to continue to go and it's not going to die, and we appreciate your work.
Thank you. And again, I wouldn't have been able to do this without my colleague, Elena Santa Cruz, or the backing of the Arizona Republic, which has really poured a lot of resources into looking into this month after month after month.
And needs to be. Thank you again.
Thank you.
He is the investigative reporter at the Arizona Republic, Robert Anglen. All right. Will this month go down as the hottest June in Arizona history? I'm going to be talking about that. It's coming up next. We're Outspoken on KTAR.
Hi, folks. Brandon Webb here. You may be hearing a lot about why refi, or even know someone who's already invested. But what makes why refi so different from other investments? Well, why refi offers a secure.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.